The face on the television screen made Diana's chin drop her coffee mug. It shattered against the kitchen linoleum, but she didn't look down. She couldn't, because the man being interviewed on the morning news, the celebrated humanitarian receiving a Congressional Medal of Honor, had a voice she'd recognize anywhere. It was the voice that had whispered, "Thank you," in the recovery room 5 years ago, when they'd both been too drugged to see clearly. The voice of the stranger who had her kidney. 5 years earlier, Diana's shift at the grocery store ended at midnight, but she stayed an extra hour restocking shelves because Mr. Hernandez, the night manager, had thrown out his back. Nobody asked her to help. She just did it, the way she did most things, quietly, without expecting recognition. Her car wouldn't start. Again, she sat in the empty parking lot, forehead against the steering wheel, doing the math she'd done 1,000 times. Rent, $1,100. Utilities, $200. Groceries, $300 if she was careful. Her daughter Lily's asthma medication, $180. Car repair, at least $400 she didn't have. The bus came at 1:15 a.m. Diana watched streetlights blur past, her reflection ghost-like in the window. She was 34 but looked older, the kind of tired that lived in your bones. Her cashier uniform smelled like the deli counter. Her shoes were held together with superglue. The apartment was dark when she arrived. Lily, 12 years old, was asleep in the bedroom they shared. Diana stood in the doorway, watching her daughter's chest rise and fall, listening for the wheeze that meant they'd need the emergency inhaler. Lily's science fair project sat half-finished on the kitchen table, a model of the solar system made from painted foam balls and wire. Diana had promised to help her finish it this weekend, if she wasn't scheduled for both Saturday shifts. She was always scheduled for both Saturday shifts. Diana made herself instant ramen, scrolling through her phone while the water boiled. An ad popped up, living kidney donors needed, compensation for medical expenses and recovery time. She read it twice, then clicked. The website belonged to a transplant center across town. They were seeking altruistic donors for patients on the waiting list. Medical expenses covered. Recovery assistance provided. For weeks paid leave. 4 weeks of paid leave was $2,800. Enough to fix her car, pay rent ahead, buy Lily new shoes for school. Diana knew it was crazy. You didn't give away body parts for money. But it wasn't really for money, was it? Someone needed a kidney to live. She had 2 healthy ones, and her family needed those 4 weeks of paid leave to survive. She filled out the application at 2 a.m., her ramen going cold. 3 weeks later, Diana sat in a consultation room at Metro Transplant Center, learning she was a rare, universal donor. Her blood type, tissue markers, and antibody profile meant she could donate to almost anyone. "You're like gold for patients who've been waiting years," the coordinator said. "We have several critical cases you'd be compatible with." Diana thought of Lily, of the eviction notice she'd hidden in her dresser drawer, of the check engine light that now stayed on permanently. "What happens next?" she asked. "We match you with a recipient. You'll meet briefly before surgery, just a handshake. Maintain anonymity if you prefer. Then the procedure, recovery, and follow-up care. And the compensation? $2,800 for recovery time, plus all medical expenses. You'll sign paperwork confirming this is altruistic donation, not sale of organs. The payment is for lost wages only." Diana sighed. She didn't tell Lily the truth. She said the hospital needed her for a minor procedure, and she'd be recovering at a special facility. Lily stayed with Diana's neighbor, Mrs. Ochoa, a grandmother who asked no questions and made excellent tamales. The day before surgery, Diana met her recipient. The coordinator led her to a private room. The man sitting there was younger than she expected, maybe 40, thin, his skin carrying the great tent of long illness. He stood when she entered, moving carefully. "I'm Ben," he said. His voice was soft, educated, warm. "I don't know how to thank you for what you're doing." Diana shook his hand. "I'm Diana, and you don't need to thank me. I'm glad I can help. I've been on dialysis for 3 years, Ben said. My kidneys failed after a childhood illness. I've been waiting for a donor for so long, I'd almost given up hope." His eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You're giving me my life back. Whatever your reasons for doing this, please know, you're saving me." Diana felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't about the money anymore. This man was somebody's son, maybe somebody's father, somebody's entire world. Just like Lily was hers. I hope the surgery goes well, she said. I hope you get to do everything you've been waiting to do. I will, Ben promised. I swear I will. The surgery took 8 hours. Diana woke in recovery, her side screaming with pain, her mouth dry as sand. Through the fog of anesthesia, she heard a voice beside her. Thank you, Ben whispered from the next bed over. Thank you for my life. She tried to answer, but sleep pulled her under. Diana never saw his face clearly. By the time she was lucid, he'd been moved to another floor. The hospital kept donors and recipients separated during recovery protocol. She went home after 4 days, moving like an old woman, her abdomen bound tight. The $2,800 check arrived a week later. Diana paid rent, fixed her car, bought Lily new shoes and winter coat, and she never looked back. Until 5 years later, when she dropped that coffee mug and saw Ben's face on television. Dr. Benjamin Matthews has revolutionized access to healthcare in underserved communities, the news anchor was saying. His mobile clinic program has provided free medical care to over 50,000 patients across 12 states. Today, he receives the Presidential Citizens Medal for his humanitarian work. The camera zoomed in on Ben, healthy, vibrant, standing at a podium. He looked nothing like the gray, exhausted man Diana had met briefly before surgery. He looked alive. 5 years ago, I received a kidney transplant from an altruistic donor, Ben said into the microphone, his voice carrying across the congressional chamber. I was dying. Someone I'd never met gave me a piece of themselves, not for recognition, not for thanks, but simply because they could help. That gift didn't just save my life. It showed me what I was supposed to do with it. Diana sank into a kitchen chair, her hand pressed to her side, where the scar still ached on cold mornings. Mom. Lily appeared in the doorway, 17 now, taller than Diana, wearing her nursing school acceptance letter like a badge of honor. You okay? I heard something break. I'm fine, baby. Just clumsy. But she wasn't fine. Because watching Ben on television, seeing what he'd accomplished, seeing the lives he'd touched, it made something crack open in her chest. Not regret. Something else. Something that felt like wondering if her life had mattered at all. Ben had taken her kidney and saved 50,000 people. Diana had taken her $2,800 and paid rent. At work that afternoon, Diana scanned groceries on autopilot. Beep, back, beep, back. The rhythm that had defined her life for 15 years. Her feet ached. Her back hurt. She was 40 now, still wearing the same uniform, still making minimum wage plus $1. During her break, she searched for Dr. Benjamin Matthews on her phone. His foundation, Second Chance Medical, ran mobile clinics in rural areas and poor urban neighborhoods. Free checkups, free medications, free treatments. Staffed by volunteer doctors and nurses. Funded by donations and grants. There were photos of Ben with patients, elderly people, children, families. His smile was genuine in every picture. In one photo, he stood beside a clinic van, his hand resting unconsciously on his lower back, right where the transplant scar would be. Diana remembered her own scar. What had hers bought? For years and 8 months of barely keeping her head above water. A car that still broke down. An apartment with water stains on the ceiling. Another decade of scanning groceries. She wasn't ungrateful. She had Lily, healthy, smart, about to start nursing school. She had a job, a roof, food. She had more than many people. But watching Ben's life, the impact he'd made, the people he'd helped, Diana felt invisible again. She'd given him the gift that made all of it possible, and he didn't even know her name. That evening, Diana did something she'd never done. She went to the transplant center website and submitted a contact request. I donated a kidney 5 years ago. I'd like to know if my recipient would be willing to meet. The response came 2 days later. Dear Ms. Chun, we've contacted your recipient. He's expressed enthusiastic interest in meeting you. Please call to arrange a time. Diana stared at the email for an hour before calling. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Diana changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on her nicest jeans and a sweater Lily had given her for Christmas. She felt ridiculous, nervous, like she was going on a date. She arrived early. The coffee shop was trendy, expensive, the kind of place Diana never entered. She ordered water. Ben arrived exactly on time, and Diana recognized him immediately. He looked better in person than on television, Warm, real, human. His face lit up when he saw her. Diana? She stood. Hi. And then she was being hugged, carefully but tightly, by a man she'd saved but barely. No. I've thought about you every day for 5 years, Ben said, pulling back. His eyes were wet. Every single day? I wanted to find you. Thank you. Tell you what your gift meant. But the transplant center said you wanted anonymity, so I respected that. When they called and said you wanted to meet. He shook his head. I couldn't believe it. They sat. Diana's hands trembled around her water glass. I saw you on the news, she admitted. The medal ceremony. Your foundation. Everything you've built. Because of you, Ben said immediately. Every person we've helped, every life we've touched, it all started with what you gave me. Diana, I was a sick college professor going nowhere. You gave me a future. You gave me the chance to matter. Diana looked down. You made it matter. I needed the money for the recovery time. I wish I could say it was purely altruistic, but I was desperate. I had a daughter to feed and rent to pay. So you were a single mother making an impossible choice to keep your family afloat, and somehow you still found room to save a stranger's life. Ben's voice was fierce. Diana, that's not less noble. That's more. You had nothing, and you gave anyway. You don't understand, Diana said quietly. I took that money, and I'm still exactly where I was. Same job. Same struggle. I see what you've done with her life, and I wonder if I wasted my chance to do something that mattered. Ben stared at her. Diana, you raised a daughter while working yourself to death, and you still had enough humanity left to save someone you'd never met. You didn't waste anything. You're a hero. Diana shook her head. I'm a grocery store cashier. You're the woman who gave me life, Ben said firmly. And I need to show you something. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos. This is Maria Rodriguez. She came to our mobile clinic with untreated diabetes. We got her on insulin, taught her to manage her condition. She's healthy now, raising 3 grandchildren. Another photo. This is James Chun. No relation, I checked. He'd been living with chronic pain for 8 years, no insurance. We diagnosed his condition, got him treatment. He's working again. Ben kept scrolling. Photo after photo. Names and faces and stories. Every one of these people is alive or healthy because you gave me your kidney, Ben said. You didn't save one life. You saved thousands. You just did it through me. Diana's throat tightened. That's your work. Your achievement. It's our work, Ben corrected. Diana, I want to offer you something. Second Chance Medical is expanding. We need someone to run our donor relations and community outreach program. Someone who understands what it means to give sacrificially. Someone who can talk to potential donors and volunteers about why this matters. Ben, I never finished college. I'm not qualified. You're the most qualified person I know. Salary is $62,000 a year, full benefits, retirement matching. We'd train you in everything you need to know. He leaned forward. But more than that, I need someone who remembers what it's like to be invisible. Our patients are invisible. Our volunteers are invisible. I need someone who sees them. Diana thought of 15 years scanning groceries. 15 years of being looked through, not at. 15 years of helping people load bags into carts while they talked on phones, scrolled social media, treated her like furniture. My daughter just got into nursing school, Diana said slowly. The tuition is $18,000 a year. Even with loans, I don't know how we'll manage. Second Chance has an education fund for employees' children pursuing healthcare careers, Ben said. Full tuition coverage, for years. Diana pressed her hand to her mouth. She couldn't speak. You gave me my life back, Ben said gently. Let me give you yours. 3 months later, Diana Chin walked into the Second Chance Medical headquarters wearing business casual clothes, carrying a laptop bag, feeling like an imposter. Her first day was orientation. Her second day was meeting the team, doctors, nurses, administrators, all treating her like she belonged. Her third day, she accompanied a mobile clinic to a rural community 3 hours outside the city. An elderly woman approached, struggling to walk, clearly in pain. The volunteer doctor examined her, diagnosed severe arthritis, wrote prescriptions. How much? The woman asked, her voice resigned. Nothing, Diana said, stepping forward. Everything here is free. The consultation, the medication, the follow-up care. We're here to help. The woman's face crumpled. She gripped Diana's hand. Thank you. Thank you for seeing me. Diana understood then. Ben had been right. She hadn't wasted anything. She'd been preparing for this, learning what it meant to be invisible, to be desperate, to need help and have nowhere to turn. Lily's nursing school acceptance letter arrived in May, with a full scholarship notation at the bottom. Diana called her from the office, both of them crying on the phone. "Mom, this is everything we hoped for," Lily said. "All those years you worked so hard, it's finally paying off." "Baby, it always paid off," Diana said. "I had you. That was enough. But this, having Lily's future secured, having work that mattered, having a salary that meant she could breathe, this was more than enough. This was abundance." At the 6-month mark, Second Chance held a gala fundraiser. Diana had never attended anything so formal. She wore a borrowed dress and felt awkward until Ben introduced her to the donors. "This is Diana Chun, our Director of Community Outreach," he announced. "She's also my kidney donor. 5 years ago, she saved my life. Today, she's helping us save thousands more." The applause was deafening. Later, during dinner, an elderly man approached Diana. "I'm Patrick Morrison," he said. "I run the Morrison Foundation. We fund medical charities. I'd like to talk to you about expanding Second Chance's mobile clinic program." By the end of the evening, Second Chance had secured $2 million in new funding. On the drive home, Ben called Diana. "You know what you did tonight? Wore uncomfortable shoes." He laughed. "You showed people that the person who gives matters as much as what they give." Patrick Morrison told me he's never met someone who embodied the mission like you do. "You're not just talking about helping invisible people. You are one. You are one. That's why people trust you." Diana thought of her old uniform, packed away in a closet. She thought of the grocery store where she'd spent 15 years, where managers still asked for her occasionally, surprised she'd moved on. She thought of the scar on her side, the one that still ached sometimes, and realized it wasn't a wound anymore. It was a bridge. 2 years after joining Second Chance Medical, Diana Chin sat in a congressional chamber, invited to speak about healthcare access for low-income families. She wore a professional suit. She spoke clearly, confidently, about what it meant to be working poor in America. Lily sat in the gallery, wearing her nursing school uniform, tears streaming down her face. After the testimony, reporters surrounded Diana. "What drove you to this work?" one asked. Diana thought about how to answer. She could talk about her kidney donation, about Ben, about the foundation. But that wasn't really the truth. "I spent 15 years being invisible," she said finally. "Scanning groceries, riding buses, cleaning my uniform in the sink because I couldn't afford the laundromat. And I learned something. Invisible people aren't actually invisible. They're just unseen. There's a difference. Invisible means you don't exist. Unseen means people choose not to look." She paused, meeting the camera directly. "I'm choosing to look. And I'm asking you to look with me." The clip went viral. Second Chance Medical received 10,000 new volunteer applications in a week. That evening, Diana came home to the new apartment she'd rented. 2 bedrooms, working heat, no water stains. Lily was studying at the kitchen table. "Mom." Lily looked up. "I've been thinking about something. I never really understood why you had that surgery when I was 12. The one you said was minor. But I'm in nursing school now, and I know recovery timelines. That wasn't minor." Diana sat down slowly. "No, baby. It wasn't. You donated your kidney, didn't you? To Dr. Matthews." Diana nodded. Lily's eyes filled. "We were broke that summer. You were desperate. You gave away a piece of yourself so we could survive." She reached across the table, gripping her mother's hand. "Mom, you've been a hero my whole life. I just didn't know it." "I just did what I had to do," Diana said. "What any mother would do." "No," Lily said firmly. "What you would do. Because you see people who need help, and you help them, even when you have nothing left to give. You've been teaching me that my whole life. That's why I'm going into nursing. Because you showed me what it looks like to save people." Diana pulled her daughter into a hug, holding tight. Later that night, Diana stood on her small balcony, looking at the city lights. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ben. "Tomorrow's clinic is in your old neighborhood. Thought you'd want to come. Full circle." Diana smiled, texting back, "I'll be there." She touched the scar on her side. The mark of the day she'd been desperate enough, brave enough, foolish enough to give away a piece of herself to a stranger. It had cost her a kidney. It had given her a purpose. And in the end, it had taught her the truth. You're never truly invisible if you choose to see others. Diana Chun went inside, turned off the lights, and slept the deep, dreamless sleep of someone who'd finally found their place in the world. Not in spite of being unseen, but because of it.